Brandon Winerdy from Talking Bay 94. How are y'all?
Good.
There are not a lot of human faces in this movie, which I love. But John, as a director, and Dave as a second unit director over the puppets, how hard is it to draw like significant emotion or those storytelling beats from masks, from aliens, from puppets, from animatronics? Because it really worked for me in the film, and it's always worked for me in Star Wars. But how is that as a creative?
Well, I think the answer is in the question. It's always worked in Star Wars, right? So when I think about Darth Vader, to me is a character, and part of why we came up with the Mandalorians don't take their helmet off thing was, I think me trying to connect narratively with the idea that Boba Fett was a face, was a character, and that if we were going to set out to do this, and I had been wrestling with the similar questions around, Iron Man. And we had other and speaking to people who've been working in Marvel for a long time, where some characters are whipping their mask off at every opportunity so you can connect with them. Star Wars never felt that way. Certainly the Episode 4, R2-D2 was the character I connected the most with, and he barely looks anthropomorphic. So I think it's how George contextualized these characters, but the whole idea of color, palette, and silhouette to help define the story. And I think that's why, younger people connect with Star Wars, even if they don't understand everything that's going on. It's sometimes it's a little scary for them, but there's a sense of who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and a sense of hope ultimately, which I think is also helpful. And I think that the mask theater side of it contributes to how archetypal these characters feel, and knowing George's reverence for Joseph Campbell and the monomyth, I think all of these are tools that he arrived at, and even studying how it came together was really an intuitive process that emerged. And then Star Wars was defined around that first film, but his instincts led him to that. So I do like the idea of characters not always being a face, and certainly we had with Legacy, the animatronics, to have a character, an Ugnaught character, which would not be, I don't think you'd identify as one of the most expressive or empathetic characters in the canon, but that character ended up being a character that people connected with a lot because of Misty, her performance within the suit, of course. Our voice performance, and our puppet, Nick Nolte, and our puppets, puppeteers and puppet designers. That you get away with different things in Star Wars than you do with other genres. You can have puppets mixed with CGI, mixed with miniatures, mixed with masks, and it's forgiven. And its wonkiness is almost embraced as part of the wabi-sabi of it all. And that's why I love working with not just masks and puppets, but stop motion, motion control miniatures. That's part of what, that also allows us to tell a fresh story for a fresh audience. Story-wise, it's very accessible. But if you know Star Wars and you know your history, you're going to see that we're using ingredients. You know what I mean? We're going back to the seed bank and sprouting new.
The question's funny to me because coming from animation, I was so interested to work and direct, actors right there in front of me, and the face and the performance, and
This is a test.
I won't.
Test day.
I won't have. This is different. This is the first day. I won't have the control I do in animation, where you can really micro any smile or eyebrow or anything. So I get there for the first day. We're shooting, and it was Mando in his helmet on a buck. So Mando on a thing that's not really there that he's riding, with Misty as Queel in a mask. So I see her eyes, but everything else, and I've got the puppeteers, and I'm like, right. So this is live action. It's just, but it was so much like animation in a way, because I was still directing the puppeteers like you direct your animators. And Brendan is such a cowboy. We talked about like Mando's like his slit on his visor of his helmet being the brim of a hat, and how that would work that angle for like different expressions, and that became like a brow. So it was an interesting kind of step over for me into the world of live action. In fact, the first human face that I ever looked through a camera to see and direct was actually Werner Herzog, which that was another level of like, okay, strange. But, and obviously
When you thought you were making live-action Star Wars, you weren't picturing looking at Werner Herzog.
Not necessarily, no, but he was brilliant. So it's like
great.
Star Wars is just a surprise that way, and it's a.
And I love how your story's getting around about how Werner Herzog's the reason that we're using the puppet Baby Yoda and not CGI.
He loved the puppet. He believed in it before I think any of us really did. Like he fully committed to it. Because we had a lot of
shamed
questions.
us for not embracing it.
Yeah, we should have embraced it more. But I don't know. I mean, Grogu's a little magic guy. The puppeteering of him, the way that the Legacy built it, they understood the way that it, he could move, and I've always enjoyed photographing it. And we figured out backlighting him, and you just figure out things. So when it came to doing the film, I was very excited to get to do. The puppet unit.
We had tested all of it out a lot too, of how to get expression out of his face. There's also different performers in the costume sometimes, and each one brings a slightly different thing. And sometimes he's even purely digital, the Mandalorian. So it's a formula that we understand, and it's very Star Wars.
I was gonna say it's very Star Wars. Star Wars is unlike anything else you could try to do. I've heard that from people. Kathy says it. George says it. Like I think everybody that comes in contact with it doesn't understand that coming in, but they sure understand that going out.
Well, you look at behind the scenes of like when Boba Fett pops his mask off. And it's different people. And you have the puppet, the Frank Oz lowering, his arm getting tired between takes, and Yoda.
Well, Yoda, having done any of this, I have to say too, it gives you tremendous appreciation for the original team that did Star Wars. They were doing this stuff with not nearly sophisticated technology, computer chips, animatronics.
And we know the formula is going to work. That people are going to like Star Wars if we do this right.
But boy, is it amazing.
They
didn't know.
Nobody on the set would acknowledge that they
the
were
wood's
onto
banging around, the armor's clacking around, the astromechs are breaking, it's overheating.
What guts he had to make this.
Unbelievable. I so appreciate it.
We're following a trail up the mountain.
Yeah.
And he was there with,
Yeah, he's on, trust me, it's going to work. He's Han Solo and the Falcon. It's not my fault. It's like, it's all that kind of fun realm.
And the fact that he's still around and still cares is really awesome. And by the way, his museum is amazing. Awesome. Museum of Narrative Art.
Yeah, you're going to
be
love
opening this year. Let's plug that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's not just Star Wars. It's his collection over 50 years of everything, and how he contextualizes it all. And I know, sorry, that gave through a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But Star Wars was a door. He opened a door to me to appreciating cinema, appreciating the monomyth, appreciating other filmmakers. As a 10-year-old, seeing that one experience was enough to get me curious about everything. And here I am doing this. I wouldn't be doing this if I hadn't had that experience.
That's right.